Good day, everybody, and welcome to today's latest episode on my YouTube video series. And today we're going to have a conversation about this topic, which is Singaporeans renting condos in Johor Bahru. What kind of permits you need for long-term stay, right? And the basic question or the basic answer is yes. Yeah, if you're a Singaporean, or actually if you're any foreigner, it doesn't really matter. You can rent property in Malaysia, right, or in Johor Bahru, and these are normally 1 year tenancies, means minimum 1 year. So most landlords don't do below 1 year, right? If you do below 1 year, the rent will go up a lot, and they will consider it as a short-term stay calculation, right? So short-term stay calculation, of course, the rates are higher, right? If you want to get a normal long-term rent, right, you have to rent minimum 1 year, right? So you can get a 1 year contract tenancy agreement, right? In Malaysia, typically you don't have to pay agent fee to the agent, right? But you do have to pay what they call 2.5 months deposit to the landlord. So this is 2 months security deposit, 2 months, right? And another half month for water, electricity deposit. Because in Malaysia, we don't change the name, right, for the tenant. So it's still the water, electricity account still under the landlord name. So you have to pay a half month in security deposit over there, right? So 1 year tenancy agreement, 2.5 months deposit. And of course, you have to pay the first month rental as well. So basically, all in, yeah, we are talking about 3.5 months rental, right? You need to have this cash on hand to rent a property in JB. And of course, the deposits are refundable, right, after the end of the tenancy agreement, right? As long as you keep the property in good shape, right, you will get back the deposits. And if you pay all your bills and you fix all the things in the house, right, you leave the house in the same condition that you get it, of course, except fair wear and tear. So renting a property in Malaysia doesn't grant you any visa to stay, and actually landlords in Malaysia do not check, right? They don't care really whether you have a visa or no visa, right? When you rent a property in Malaysia, the only thing they will check is that you are the valid person, right? They will ask for your passport, IC, these kind of things, just to make sure that you are who you are. And of course, all tenancy agreements will have clauses to say that you cannot do illegal things, right? You must have follow the number of people that you occupy, right? They're quite standard clauses, similar to rental agreements in Singapore. So how do you get a visa to live in Malaysia long term, right? So, but most Singaporeans actually, sometimes when they rent in Malaysia, usually they don't get a visa, right? Because most Singaporeans still in out of JB Singapore quite a fair bit. And today we have a 30-day visa, so you can in out of Singapore quite a fair bit without the need to have a long-term visa to stay in Malaysia, lah, right? So yeah, so the only problem where you have run into visa issue is what we call a visa run, right? This term visa run is when you try to abuse the 30-day visa, because 30-day visa is actually a tourist or social visit pass, right? Not meant for long-term stay. So if you how would they define you as a visa run? Means illegal, right? Or they catch you is, for example, daily travel, right? Many people ask me, Ryan, can I do rent in Malaysia, right? Do daily travel in out of Singapore to go to work? So the answer is no, right? If you don't have a proper visa, you cannot use this thing, our normal tourist visa, because if you go in and out every day, right? Malaysia immigration, in our experience recently, they can find out, they will stop you, and at some point they will U-turn you. Maybe 2-3 months later, once they catch you, they will U-turn you. When they U-turn you, then they'll ask you to stay Singapore for maybe 1 week or 2 weeks before you come back to Malaysia, right? So daily travel definitely cannot, right, if you don't have a proper visa, right? The other one that you will normally also get caught is if you do what I call the 30+1, because our visa is 30 days, so you have many people who like stay in Malaysia 30 days, right? Then on the 30th day or the 29th day, they go Singapore for 1 day. Sometimes not even 1 day, right? They don't even stay overnight. They just go in for a few hours, then they come back to Malaysia again to try and renew the 30-day visa. This one also will get stopped, because very obviously, especially if you repeat this many times, right, over 2 or 3 months, they keep seeing that you have this same pattern, 30+1, 30+1, they will also stop you and U-turn you. So these are the most obvious what they call visa run scenarios that you get caught by Malaysia immigration or stopped by Malaysia immigration, right? So if you do like 2 days Singapore, 5 days JB, and then you go back Singapore 5 days or 4 days, come back Malaysia 3 days, like that is fine. You can argue that you are a tourist because you just come to Malaysia often because you stay in Singapore, right? So in that sense, Malaysia immigration, because there's no pattern, right? So they cannot really catch you, and there's no like minimum. Someone was saying online that 180 days a year minimum. There's no such thing actually. This is just I don't know where this rumor came out actually. So you can stay as long as it's 30 days, not more than 30 days per entry. So the next question comes at, hey Ryan, so I really want to stay in Malaysia long term, right? And today actually many Singaporeans can do this because number one, sometimes you got multiple properties in Singapore, right? You got one HDB, you got one private, so you rent out one, you stay one, right? Then you earn the rental income in Singapore. You go and stay in JB, right? You get lower cost of living, better lifestyle, right? Some people in Singapore sometimes they rent out by rooms, they're Singapore rooms, right? So you rent out your rooms in Singapore. Each room is $1,000, right? Then you keep one room for yourself in Singapore for you to stay, right? Especially if you're retired because your children are no longer with you, they stay on their own, right? Or you don't have children, right? These are very common scenarios today, right, in Singapore, where you use your Singapore high rental income to sustain your lifestyle in Malaysia lah. So but then you want to stay in Malaysia longer term. So how do you get a visa to stay in Malaysia longer term, right? When you don't have these issues with the social visit pass. So number one is Malaysia my second home. So the most obvious solution is actually the MM2H, Malaysia my second home. You can go and watch other earlier videos on my YouTube channel, right? If you're not clear how this works. So Malaysia my second home is a retirement program, right, created by the Malaysia government for retirees. It's designed for retirees, right, where typically the age that they're targeting is 50 years old and above lah. So there are two financial requirements. So number one, you must have a fixed deposit in Malaysia in the bank, right? So we're talking about 150,000 US dollars, right? You must put this money in the bank in Malaysia, fixed deposit. The interest you can earn, right? The bank interest you can collect. So now Malaysia fixed deposit interest maybe about 2.5, I think 2.5%. So this 2.5% you can get the money and use that, right? But the principal 150,000 US you must keep in the bank, right? And leave it there for the duration of your visa, right? And this is the financial requirement number one, right? And you get a 5-year visa for this, for you, your spouse, even your parents or your children if they want to, right? All of you get a 5-year visa to stay in Malaysia, and this visa is renewable, right? So as long as your first 5 years you stay okay, you didn't commit any crime, you can renew the visa again and again and again, right? Until the day you don't want. The day you don't want, you want to go back Singapore, you don't want to stay in Malaysia anymore, you can take back your fixed deposit. So that's financial requirement number one. So the second financial requirement for MM2H is that you must buy a property in Malaysia, right? And this property has to be a value for the silver program. We're talking about minimum 600,000 ringgit, right? So that's about just under 200,000 Singapore dollars, right? You must buy one property in Malaysia, right? So in JB, right, it's possible for you to buy properties from developer, right, around this price range. If you want more details, you contact me. I will tell you what kind of properties you can buy below 1 million ringgit. It doesn't have to be 1 million ringgit. I know some of you read online say that, foreigner can only buy property 1 million ringgit. It's not always true. There are scenarios where you can buy even completed property below 1 million ringgit for foreigners. So you must buy one property in Malaysia. Doesn't have to be completed. Can be new property, can be completed property, can be secondary market or not. Minimum 600,000 ringgit. You must buy this property, and this is the second financial requirement. Now you say, oh, so total how much had to come out? You're saying, oh, Ryan, I had to come out. Is it correct? I must come out 150,000 US for the fixed deposit earlier, plus another 600,000 ringgit for the property. Yes, and actually, if you do this together, right, you can actually use half, 50% of the fixed deposit earlier to pay for the property. I repeat, you can use 50% of the fixed deposit, which is 75,000 US dollars. You can use that to pay for the property. So in net, actually your fixed deposit is only 75,000 US. And this has to be done, and this can be done as long as you buy the property and get your MM2H approval within 2 years of each other, right? So when you do this MM2H, right, you will get a 5-year visa, right? Like I said earlier, for yourself, your spouse, your children, and your family, your parents. Okay, so for not generally your family, your brother, sister cannot, but your parents, your spouse, and your children can, right, for a 5-year period, and this is renewable for 5 years, and so on and so forth. Okay, so Malaysia my second home is the best way to apply long-term visa in Malaysia if you want to stay in Malaysia for long term, right? So but actually, to be frank, like I said, many Singaporean retirees don't really apply MM2H because Singapore is so near, right? And most Singaporean retirees still need to go back Singapore from time to time. So in many cases, practically, they don't really need MM2H lah. If you want, you can, right? Like if you go stay KL or Penang or Malacca, where it's more difficult to go back to Singapore, right? Or you really stay in Malaysia long term, don't go back Singapore type lah, right? Although there are such cases, but I think more rare, right? You stay Singapore long term, don't go back, stay Malaysia long term, you don't go back Singapore type, then yes, you can also apply Malaysia by second home lah. But of course, Malaysia by second home is very popular with all the China people, the China PRC, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Ang Moh, all the Western people. All these people tend to apply Malaysia by second home because for them to go Singapore, they won't go as often as the Singaporeans, right? So they will then apply Malaysia by second home. And actually, we do get a lot of these foreigners applying Malaysia by second home because, like for China people, for example, is they cannot get Singapore PR, they cannot get Singapore visas, so they apply the next best situation, which is the JB one, Malaysia my second home lah. Same thing with all the Ang Moh and the Koreans, right? It's not easy to get into Singapore nowadays. I think some of you are aware, right? Immigration policy in Singapore is quite tight, right? In the sense that Singapore only want a certain type of people lah, right? So if you are like with parents or grandparents of your children in Singapore, all that, right? It's very difficult to get in Singapore. So all these people usually they will apply Malaysia by second home, right? If you look at the numbers, statistics, right? A lot of these people apply Malaysia by second home today, not necessarily the Singaporeans. Okay, so because Singaporeans don't need this because Singapore got 30 days, right? And you tend to go back Singapore quite often, so usually you will not apply a long-term visa lah. But what other options? Let's say if you want to apply a long-term visa in Malaysia, the second option other than Malaysia my second home is what we call the digital nomad, right? Or it's called My Rantau, right? I'll put the website here on the page. You can go and check it out. So my digital nomad is like what it says is basically you are still working, right? You are a working professional or self-employed also can, right, in the IT information technology industry, right? They are a bit general, right? As long as you're IT related, right? Of course, the best case scenario is that you are the programmer itself, right? Then you can apply this, right? If you just say that you are a admin for IT industry company, I don't know whether you go through or not. I have not tried. You can try. So there's a website, you go, you apply, right? You can get a visa, minimum 3 months to 1 year visa, right? To live in Malaysia, right? And the criteria is that you must be working for IT company, doing the work itself, the IT work itself, right? Or you have an IT contract if you're a freelancer or you are self-employed. You have an IT contract that pays you some money, then you can get a visa to live in Malaysia with this purpose, right? So this also can apply to your spouse, right? And also dependents if you have any to stay in Malaysia. So this is like what you hear in other, Bali have lah, Thailand also have. Actually, many countries have such a policy, right? To encourage people can work from home, IT professionals can work from home, right, to work in their country. So this one applicable digital nomad visa. The third model, of course, is to get a direct employment pass, right? This is similar to employment pass in Singapore for foreigners, right? If you can get a job in Malaysia, some company in Malaysia employ you, right, then you can also get a pass. So employment pass happens if you're actively working, right? If you're retired, unlikely you can get an employment pass, right? So a big company is employ you from Singapore to work in Malaysia, right? And they pay you a salary or whatever, and then you can get employment pass to work in Malaysia, to live in Malaysia. So employment pass is typically annual, tied to your employment, right? Then the question comes, can I open a company and employ myself as an employment pass? You can, right? In theory you can, but like Singapore, there's similar requirements where you must hire some Malaysians as well as work employees. And your business must be have a certain paid up capital. You cannot open a 1 ringgit or 100 ringgit company, right, and do this, right? There's a certain paid up capital. It must be a real business. If you want to do a shell company, all that is very tough. Because what will a shell company do when they hire 5 Malaysians? We're going to do that, right? So it has to be a real business, right? So if you are really opening a proper business in Malaysia, right, a real functional business in Malaysia, and you hire Malaysian staff, right, you can get employment pass for yourself to get a visa to live in Malaysia. Another option that also happens is what we call the guardian visa. Guardian visa is you have children schooling in Malaysia, right? If they go to international schools in Malaysia, you can apply a guardian pass, guardian visa, per child, one parent. So how it works is each child, one parent. So if you only got one child, this might be a bit tricky, but per child, one parent. Normally the school will help you with the application process where you get a guardian visa for this. So of course, this is tied to your children's education. As long as your children is still schooling there in Malaysia in the international school, you will have the pass to stay. If your children stop studying there, then of course your visa will also not be there. So I hope this video was useful in giving you some ideas, right, on why and how Singaporeans can rent property in Malaysia to live in Malaysia, right? I think what kind of visas are available for you, right? Or in case you don't really need a long-term visa, if you're Singaporean, right, then you may not really need a long-term visa, depending on how you stay. Because like I said, many Singaporeans usually still go back to Singapore quite often because of friends or family, right, or things to do. So they will normally still have one property in Singapore where you stay, or like I said, in many cases you still keep a room, right, for yourself in Singapore if you are retired, right. So then in that case, normally you don't need Malaysia, my second home, lah, or any other long-term visa. Okay, thank you very much. I hope this video was useful. If any questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can contact me at my phone number here, 81261626. You can contact me on WhatsApp, Ryan Khoo, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions for you or give you a bit more idea on how this works, right? If you want to apply Malaysia, my second home, MM2H, I can also help you, right? I can point you in the right direction to the MM2H agent to do the whole process for you. Okay, so thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, please share, like, share, and subscribe. Send it to your friends and family who are considering this move to Malaysia, because Malaysia is now an interesting place with a lower cost of living than Singapore, vibrant, very vibrant economy now, and it's an interesting option for Singapore retirees today. Thank you very much, and bye bye.